Hi, everybody.
Hey, Suzanne.
Hey there.
Are you using video?
We're not actually.
Hey.
Oh, good. I can continue to eat my pizza.
Yeah.
How is it, Suzanne?
Oh, it's delicious.
Oh, good.
Caitlin, do we actually know if everybody's coming tonight or?
Yeah, everyone should be coming. The mayor, Judy, definitely, and Karen, I'll confirm today. Tracy Watson was going to join us, but she, I guess North Andover called some kind of last minute CPC meeting, so she had to take that that call instead of this one. So she won't be joining us, but everyone else should be here.
Okay. I guess we can give it a few more minutes. I started recording just for the note-taking purposes, but I figured I wouldn't broadcast until we got all the membership here. So.
Wonder how things are going with the Newburyport Housing Authority. A lot of senior properties.
Caitlin, do you think I should send a text to Judy to check and see if she's having any technical issue or?
Yeah, maybe we should. I just checked my email. I don't see anything.
I just texted her and told her to leave the meeting and come back in.
Okay, is she trying to get in?
She wasn't able to get in earlier, but I said it hadn't started yet. But if she's hanging in the waiting room, sometimes you have to leave the meeting and sign back in.
Okay.
Karen's having trouble getting in too.
Oh.
So this, I don't know if this is the issue they're having, but we sent that invitation email and I don't know if they've responded to that, and that they're supposed to be using that or having click that link so that they can be treated as panelists. So maybe they didn't do that. Are they just are they just using this link on the city calendar and not having had done that, or? Okay.
I just plugged in the webinar ID and it worked.
Were you already using the software though?
Yeah,
you would use it before probably. It might have been their first time maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, she's getting the same message I got earlier. It says the host has another meeting in progress and she's not getting in. So tell her to leave again.
Really, that's interesting. If you want, and that's weird that it says that there's a problem on my end because you guys are obviously connected. So I can shut it down and restart it if you think that maybe that'll help them.
Well, they just said they're going to leave and try to come back in.
All right. If that doesn't work, I will shut it down and restart it, and you'll all have to click to log in again.
Let's see if it works first. Judy says same thing. So start all over again.
Yeah, I will do that. Just to be sure, can we make sure that they've actually looked at or received that email we sent with the invitation? Because I don't know if, it sounds to me like they're being treated as the general audience right now, and that's because I'm not broadcasting, whereas they should be treated as panelists, which means that maybe they didn't get to respond to that email.
Suzanne, can you text them?
I'm talking and nobody hears me. Okay. So what about the link in the agenda? Can I use that?
Yes.
Okay.
right, Andy? They can use the
Don't
link.
use the, okay, don't use,
No, I guess my point is I think that if they didn't respond to the email in the first place, they may not be treated by Zoom right now as a panelist.
okay.
Right. Yeah, Andy sent an email like maybe on Tuesday or Monday. That's what I used.
And I know Caitlin offered to do a test run for anybody who was worried about having a connection issue.
Oh, yeah.
We have so many of these a day. It's like, so, but I understand that everybody does. Yeah, she's getting the same message. We'll begin soon. I'm telling them to call in. So at least we can hear from them.
Okay. And I can explain the email thing to them just to be sure they understand.
Maybe they haven't done webinars before like this.
Yeah, work similarly though.
Yeah, we did one today.
Yeah. All right, I sent them the digits so they can call in. At least we can talk to them.
So Caitlin, I guess this is a indication here that we should probably test all our boards regardless of whether they think they need to be tested.
Okay, Judy tried to call in as well and said, the message says meeting has not started.
Yeah, I'm going to shut down and restart the whole thing if you folks could log in again. But here's my concern, and I feel like it has to be communicated to them if it has not been clear already to them. If they have not previously opened and looked at and clicked on that link in that email, they may never be treated by the system as anything other than a general public member. So if you understand what I'm saying. So because we've used Zoom before, Zoom already knows our credentials. The problem is they may not have opened that email or clicked on the link, which means that Zoom is thinking of them as a general public member, which is why they can't get in, because I'm looking at my other computer right now, which is what the audience sees. And the audience sees, please wait, the webinar will begin shortly. So it sounds to me as if they did never respond to that email.
Okay. I'm asking them to go back to the original email. Your email, did you send that out? Who sent that out? So they
It was
report.
actually automated by Zoom on my behalf.
But it said it was coming from you, Andy.
Correct.
When I received it.
Yep.
Oh, Karen never did that. Okay. I'm texting like a fiend here. Hold on.
I know, you're doing a great job.
I see Karen.
Yay! Judy's, we're getting there. Karen, are you there? Is that your mic on?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Got the mute off. I can't start my video, but otherwise I'm here.
That's okay. No one's on video.
So that's weird to have to go through that email, because then it suggests if you just do this through the agenda, you can't join, like the public can't join.
We'll let Andy explain.
Andy's email from April 8th. That's right, right?
Yes. There's a link there to click. Who else is on the line? Is everyone
She's
else
saying
here?
it's not working.
Oh,
Oh,
gosh. Is that what you did, Karen? You went
Yes.
to Andy's email
look
and
at
you,
his email. Let me see.
Let me see if I can find it and forward it.
did
I
you
don't even know if I still
click
have
on it or did you phone in?
I clicked on it.
Yeah. I phoned in, which seemed to work.
Yeah, on Andy's email, it says click here to join.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what she did?
She's saying.
It doesn't say register, it just says click here to join.
Here it is. Okay. I'm going to send it to her again. Click to join, Judy. That's my text coming through somebody's phone.
Well, I'm looking at all these great documents in the meantime.
Right.
I now see two Suzanne Camerons on here. Perhaps one of them is Judy.
Yeah. Because I forwarded her mine.
Okay.
As long as she's there.
Right, that's right.
Judy, unmute your mic.
Okay.
Oh, got it?
Yay!
Yay. Okay, good.
All right, shall we start? Everyone, Andy, are you there?
Well, he's muted, so.
Okay, perhaps he stepped away. So when he steps back, we'll just have Judy kind of call the meeting to order like normal, and kind of just go through the agenda as if we're kind of sitting all in a room together.
Great.
Okay, let's call the meeting to order. On the agenda.
Oh, Judy, this
yes.
is Andy. Could I just interrupt for a second? Just a suggestion, because we're doing a remote meeting, the votes, any votes that are taken should be roll call votes. Just FYI.
Yep.
And speaking of roll call, can we hear who all? I see there's 7 participants. I'm not sure who's on the call.
Yep. So I'll just read off the panelists if that makes it easier. So I'm here. I happen to be running another computer as backup just to kind of make sure things are running smoothly on your end. So you might see me in the list there. as an attendee. There's Judy, and I actually, I don't know if it makes sense for people to announce themselves just to make sure they're connected properly, but Judy, Karen, Madeline, Suzanne, Caitlin, obviously, and Diana, Donna Holiday just connected, I think, but I want to make sure everybody is properly connected if they can announce themselves.
Yep, I see the list.
If you
Yeah.
see where it is, when you hit the chat bot or the participants.
Yep.
Okay, so Judy, one of those, they're both me, but one of them is you now, because I changed my name.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so use that one if you can, I don't know.
Yeah, I see the list. I see everybody on here.
You two are reversed, though. That's funny. When Suzanne speaks, it's with Judy's name, and when Judy speaks, it's with Suzanne's name.
Oh,
But that's
oh,
okay.
that's, oh, yeah, that is funny.
I've never seen that. That's interesting.
Because I was only able to change my name to Judy. I couldn't
Oh.
change her login to Judy, you know what I mean? So
So we'll just attribute things to the opposite person.
it's opposite day here at the Newburyport Affordable Housing Trust.
It's a good thing I know all of your voices so I can take the minutes properly.
Right, right.
Oh, gosh.
Okay, so we're going to talk about the housing assistance program first. Item on the agenda. So I did send around some documents that came from the town of North Andover, courtesy of Tracy Watson. I haven't spoken to anyone in North Andover. I just looked at their documents. I have called into some of the CHAPA calls, and I know that other communities are thinking about doing this. Waltham was one, a few towns on the Cape, but North Andover was the only one that actually had some documents. So I looked at those and I made a few comments and sent them around. And then I put together my own checklist. And then Shelley Goering from MHP then came out with a very, very similar, very helpful checklist. So those were sent around to everyone as well. I guess kind of as an overview, I've talked to David Hall on the phone. I've talked to John Feehan. And as we both know, David Hall has a large percentage of the rental housing in Newburyport. And he sent me a copy of what he is doing with his renters. He's asking them to basically pay at least half of April's rent, and that he will work with everyone on a case-by-case basis for modifications for May and June. So he's basically, what he told me was he's mirroring what he's getting from his lenders. And of course, you know, John, the YW, they just go by the what they get from the state. And John had said, and probably Karen knows more about this than I do, they're getting at least 75% of their rents paid. And it was very interesting when I talked to David, I asked him, well, what percentage, how many of your renters do you think are going to actually be in trouble? Because he at that point, and this was the first, oh gosh, this was about 3 weeks ago. This was right after the Charlie Baker first announcement of the stay-at-home order. He said they sent around the email and he called everyone. He made a follow-up call to every single renter, and he said probably a handful, between 5 and 10, that he could foresee having problems with the what he has put out, with the program that he put out. So I don't know. I don't know what that means in terms of the short term. I think this is definitely a long-term thing. You know, this could go on for a while, and I think we might not see a lot of demand for this kind of thing in the short term, but in the long term, we might. So that's just my take on the whole thing. I don't know if anybody else has anything to add. They want to add to that from their experience.
This is Karen. I'll add from CHAPA, we had a call specifically with developers who manage affordable units, but they also have a lot of market rate units as well. And honestly, it was all over the board. It was, you know, someone has a small development in Brockton with 30 units, and he said 22 people said they couldn't pay April. Then someone else with a large development, several hundred units, said basically the April rent was all paid, but they've heard from some people they're concerned about May. So I think in terms of how to predict what kind of response we would get, I have no idea where to begin with that.
Yeah. Anyone else have any?
Well, this is Donna. It's hard to know at this point, and I think we'll have a much better sense because we did send out a notice that, and it's posted on the website, that, you know, all taxes, water, sewer bills, everything, requests for abatements, everything's been moved to June 1st. Treasurer's office has been getting calls saying thank you. I don't think at this juncture we really have a good handle at this point on you know, who's in real trouble and who isn't. Certainly businesses are in a different category than people who are renters, and, you know, again, we don't have all that many renters in the city compared, you know, to other municipalities, but you know, I know that one of the largest renters in town, New England Newburyport Development, they have a combination of both residential and business, and he said to me last week that of the 50 renters, that they're all over the place. So I think some are in better shape financially, some are probably still getting pay, some aren't. So I think it's really difficult to identify at this point where people are.
Yeah. So in my estimation, from looking at the documentation North Andover put together, it could be quite cumbersome administratively. I did make some calls to different towns and different agencies, thinking possibly, you know, even David Hall might be able to have one of his admin work with us, or John Fian at the YW, and neither one of them had resources. They felt they were both slammed. And I thought that was probably the first step to take, would be to find somebody who could accept applications, you know, for us, the way that North Andover did with, was the Greater Lawrence Community Action, GLCAC. That's the agency that they're using. So I talked to Pettingill, and they were very enthusiastic and very willing to do it.
But I would really want it to be limited to Newburyport.
Yes, that's what I told her. I told her,
Okay.
yes, just Newburyport. I said it would have to be just Newburyport. Because they do this for other communities. They do CDBG just for Salisbury.
Right. Amesbury also has CDBG. We're not eligible.
Right.
We haven't had CBGG in a while. And in talking with Mayor Gove today, they anticipate some CBDG money coming in that would help them in this area too. So.
Yeah, so she was very willing to do it. She called me. I actually forget her name. I emailed her and she called me within 20 minutes.
Judy, do you know how people are doing this now? Is it all online? I mean, how are people bringing the documentation, that kind of thing?
I don't. I have not talked to the people in North Andover. The
Okay.
person whose name is on the website is the admin for the town administrator. It's not in the planning office. It's the admin for the town administrator. So, and I have not talked to her. They do have an application online. I've looked at MHP's guidelines, and of course they said, you got to be cognizant of, special circumstances. People don't have access to, to go to the library to make copies of things.
Right.
And so you really have to be careful. It's walking a fine line between, asking for information and asking for too much information that they just can't get a hold of easily or make copies of. The application for North Andover was fairly simple though, and the paperwork that they required is a copy of the lease, a termination letter if applicable, pay stubs if applicable, acknowledgement from Department of Unemployment Insurance if you're getting unemployment, bank statements. You had to list all household members and list all income, which, when you think about it for income verification, that's pretty sparse right there. David Hall is asking for a recent tax return and bank statements. And also a narrative, and he's asking people to call them and make an appointment with his office to discuss the terms. And the other thing, and this was consistent with MHP guidance, is that you always pay the landlord. So that's another piece of documentation. You have to have a lease addendum, a lease agreement with the landlord. You don't pay the applicant, you pay the landlord.
Judy.
So, sure.
So the Pettingill House runs an emergency assistance program currently, correct? For all sorts of things, right?
Yeah. Yep.
No?
Yes.
Okay, so they must have a process in place and their own documentation. So could
They
it
do.
just, yeah.
For CDBG, yeah. She sent me a copy of what they do for CDBG. She did not send me a copy of any lease addendum. So the four pieces of documentation that I saw from North Andover was there's got to be an agreement between the city of Newburyport and Pettingill. So there's got to be an agreement between the two of those two entities. So that's one. There's got to be an application. That's two. There's got to be an agreement or a lease addendum with the landlord. That's three. And I'm assuming that Pettingill has at least two of those. She shared with me her CDBG application. And I believe she might have also shared with me the lease addendum that they use. But we would still have to come up with an agreement between the city and Pettingill.
I guess what I'm saying is there's something that's already in process that we can just plug into with our, just with our own paperwork. Could it be as easy as giving them a grant to distribute, or does it have to be as formal as CBDG? No, Donna, you're making me do it now.
I'm sorry. No, I think that there's and it was written in some of the the MHP guidelines. They talked about the anti-aid law, you know, in terms of, or the anti-aid amendment, whatever it's called, and that if a city is going to use their funds to support non-municipal, there has to be a municipal benefit. So I think that we would have to do a formal agreement. That would not be an issue. I have actually Pettingill House reached out to me this week, and we've got I don't know, remote meeting scheduled for early next week. I certainly can pick up the conversation about this with them and move forward on, you know, trying to set this up for folks. And I think, you know, given the crisis, that the simplest process we can do, I think makes the most sense. And identifying what our cap will be per person and per what we're willing to use out of our funds to be able to move this project forward, work out the agreement, finalize the, you know, application, and then, you know, what we're looking for in terms of verification from an applicant. We also just recently, this week, hired a social worker because the needs are just so unbelievable. And, you know, this person could also help. We could direct some of the people in making inquiries about rental assistance, because this is where I see this role really being helpful, and being a direct liaison with Pettingill, and, you know, helping, you know, being housed at youth services and having access to, you know, an empty office, could print anything people need, you know, to be able to complete the application. So I think we can pull this together pretty quickly once we can agree on components and individual allocations and what is the funding that we want to use for this project.
Yeah, so as far as the criteria, there are a number of things we have to decide. First of all, is this rental and home ownership? Do we want to deal with people with mortgages, or do we want to do just rental? So that's kind of a big picture question. And then the question is, how much of the rent are we going to pay? MHP says you pay the difference between the actual rent and 35% of the applicant's income. So then also we establish an amount per applicant.
Right.
Do we go for 3 months? Do we go for 5 months? Do we establish a certain amount per month? And then how do we choose people? Some communities are thinking about doing a lottery. Some are just first come, first serve. So besides the paperwork, there's all those decisions that have to be made.
Well, this is Karen. I would start by saying, I think partly to simplify things, and partly because the need is greatest, and partly because we have limited funds, I would suggest we only do rent at this point and not get into mortgages. I mean,
I agree.
I'd like to help those folks too, but I just think we can only do so much. And at least to start, we could always revisit it, but at least to start, I would advocate for just doing rent.
I agree.
Yeah, and then we should.
Unless, wait, can I just throw out one thing? What about the prospects of the affordable units that we currently have that someone might not be able to pay their mortgage, and the potential of losing another unit?
That's
Do we look at those that are part of our system already?
Yeah,
This is Madeline. I'm just trying to think through, you know, if it was limited to rent, we have an agreement with the landlord. That's kind of straightforward. But if it's also assisting mortgage payments, I mean, how would that work?
Right.
I mean,
It's paying a bank, right?
Yeah, that's paying a bank.
No,
it's
that's
paying
too complicated. Forget it. Let's just stay with rent. It's too complicated.
Yeah, I think it's too complicated. I mean, I think if someone comes to the planning office who has one of the affordable units, or if we hear about that, we would maybe want to consider helping them sort of outside of this program in some way.
Okay, that makes sense, that it's a, you know, sort of a individual case by case basis if someone comes forward and says they're in trouble.
Right.
So we also have to establish how much, we should decide how much of our funds we're going to use for this. We're going to use, you know, $50,000. We're going to set aside $100,000.
What's our balance?
Well, balance of everything.
Yeah.
We have various funds.
Okay, can we have a accounting, please?
Okay.
I mean, I know I don't have it in front of me, but
Judy,
really,
would you like me to go through it?
Sure, Caitlin.
yeah,
Okay.
sure.
So for the overall, it's 511,894. There are several sources. There is a CPA funded priority housing needs, CPA funded small grants, CPA funded Brown affordability. All those have their own separate balances. So right now your overall fund balance is 511,000. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thinking.
Thank you.
Yes.
So I'd like to recommend we start with 100,000. We can always add more to it.
Yep.
Seems as
Sounds good to me.
good a number as any.
That would give us an average amount of $2,000 for 50 people.
Right. That's what I was thinking based on what the current rent is.
Mhm.
And then if we see that there's a need beyond 50, or maybe we have to roll it over because we're going to help the same 50 people one more month. Don't know.
So yeah, we need to also establish what's the minimum that the renter is going to pay.
Well, if they don't have any money, how can they pay anything?
Well, that was,
I know MHP's recommendation has been that the applicants still pay something
pay something, yeah.
for a few reasons. And one is that if they literally have nothing to pay, we're really putting a Band-Aid on. We're not really helping the situation. They almost need help getting into a homeless shelter or something. Because, I mean, obviously that's very difficult right now, but I'm just saying MHP's reasoning, from what I understand, is you want to try to help sustain the tenancy. And someone who can't pay anything, literally has no savings, no income whatsoever.
Well, maybe that has to be part of the application. So for example, if maybe they have been furloughed until the emergency is over and they will have a job back and income will be coming in, but they have nothing right now. So I'm a little worried
Well,
about. Go ahead.
I was going to say, if it's 30% of their income and their income is zero, then we give them the maximum amount.
Oh, that's true.
Right, so the maximum amount would not necessarily cover all of their rent. Right. So yeah, so we need to establish a maximum, a total maximum amount, or a maximum amount per month, or a total number of months. However we want to parse all that out. But there's got to be a maximum per applicant. So North Andover has a 3-month time limit. And in MHP guidelines, they said you need to have a clear program guidelines. Is there monthly or total dollar limit? What is the length of the assistance? And also clarify that the funding is a grant. This does not get paid back.
Right.
Yeah, I'm wondering where they came up with their numbers from. It's just hard to know. You know, they say their maximum is $1,000 a month,
Yeah,
but it just seems sort of arbitrary to me.
right, right.
Because if it were $1,000 and the tenant was paying 30%, but that still didn't equal the whole rent, then aren't they still in danger of getting evicted?
Yes.
Maybe part of the theory is that the landlord should be contributing something as well.
Hmm.
Yeah, sure. Sorry.
Depends on the landlord.
Right, right.
I mean,
So do
it seems
we
like in
want to try
Newburyport, we're
for? Go ahead, Madeline.
go ahead. I was going to say, it's probably going to not be a huge number of households. I'm just guessing based on, you know, what Judy heard from David Hall and the fact that we don't have that many renters in Newburyport. So it seems like maybe what we want to be able to do is help the people who need it and help them deeply. Because I'm just thinking if we, that might be the most helpful thing we end up doing rather than sort of thinking we can only give so much to each household. I'm just imagining there's not going to be that many households. I could be wrong.
There's gonna be an admin fee too, don't forget.
That's right. Yes. Yes.
I
And-
saw in the GLCAC deal, it's $100,000 and they're also getting $5,000 to administer it, which doesn't seem like very much.
Yeah, I did mention when I talked, is it Deb Smith?
She's retiring.
I
want to say
said-
Sonia, but I don't think that's the right name, but I think it does begin with S.
Yeah, well, it was Deb Smith I talked to.
Oh, okay.
I did
Okay.
tell her it was, we would have an admin fee we'd be paying. But yeah, I tend to agree with Madeline at this point. That's my perception too, is that we're not going to have a lot of applicants. At least not right away. So I don't know, maybe we establish a limit, like a $10,000 per applicant limit, $5,000 per applicant, but then we still should come up with, you know, what's the minimum that they're going to be paying.
I like
I
having.
think it makes sense to have them pay 30% of their income towards
Yeah.
rent. That's sort of standard.
Yeah.
And I think it would be good to limit it to 3 months. I mean, we don't want to get into a situation where people think that they can just, you know, depend on this indefinitely. It needs to be very clear that it's a limited source. We can always
Yeah.
revisit that.
Yeah. I like that.
Yeah, I agree. I was about to also say, I like the 30%, especially because someone pointed out, you know, if the income zero, then it's 30% of zero. So that gets to your concern, Donna.
Yeah.
But I think in general, you know, we should ask for 30%.
Okay. And a 3-month limit and not set a dollar amount because rents vary.
Right. That
Okay.
sounds good.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
This
We'll
also
start with
has to be
100.
limited. I think it has to be limited to folks with no more than 100% area median income, right?
Oh, that's
Oh,
the other
right.
thing.
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, I think our funding source specifies that. I mean, I don't really know whether we're working with CPA money or trust money that isn't necessarily that restricted, but I think it's a good policy anyways to limit it to folks at 100% and below
Right. Yeah.
area median income.
Yes. Yeah, I think that's what North Andover did. Yeah.
Okay. So what's that figure?
Oh,
Five.
I've got that up in my office. I think they had that on their website, and they're different from us, I think.
Don't they still use Boston?
That's what I thought, but
Yeah, wait, I have it here. Their household, yeah, they're 100% of area median income. Size, one person household, 71,470. Four person households, 102,000.
Okay,
that sounds like ours.
so we can use that as our AMI, right?
Yeah, we should make sure we get the right one, but yeah,
Okay.
probably like that.
Yeah.
So can someone take responsibility? Caitlin, can you take responsibility for checking on that?
Yes, I will.
Okay, because I really want to move this forward as quickly as possible.
I was going to say, this is Madeline. I think 10% admin fee is not unusual. I don't know how
Okay,
that sounds to other people. I mean,
sounds fine.
I don't know whether it's the amount of the grant. Like if we're setting aside 100,000, does that mean that there's $10,000 that could go to Pettingill, or does it mean that of the funds that are drawn down, they get 10%?
I think it's easier
an
just to come up
admin
with a
fee.
set fee for them to do their admin,
Right.
the admin. And, I can
Yeah.
negotiate that next week when I speak with them about what they would want
Oh,
for
great.
money to do this. And I think that at maximum, it's 10 grand. And I think that's
Yeah.
high too. But, we'll work somewhere between the, 5 and 10K, and hopefully we can get closer to 5 in terms of asking them. And I will work with them next week on that.
The other thing to consider, Donna, is that, and one reason I would not tie it to the grants that are actually put out there, but like the one number idea, is because they may end up working with a bunch of people, spending time with a bunch of people who don't qualify.
Right.
So giving
Good
them an
point.
admin fee is kind of covering their time,
Right.
This is Andy. I just wanted to add something to what the mayor said a second ago about mobilizing the funds, as quickly as possible. I was going to recommend that the trust authorize, whether it be the mayor or Judy, to execute any related documents on behalf of the trust per the parameters you've established, just to get things going between any next meeting you might be able to schedule.
That's a great idea. I move
We should
that,
probably take a vote on that.
right. I mean, who should it be? Judy and Donna, I'm asking each of you, who would you like it to be?
I'm perfectly fine doing it because I've already got the meeting scheduled for next week.
Okay.
I move that the trust authorizes Mayor Holliday to sign any documents related to setting up this program.
Second.
I'm in favor. This is Madeline.
Madeline. Okay. So first Karen, seconded by Madeline. So I vote in favor. Suzanne?
Yes.
Okay. And Donna, you obviously vote yes? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Should we
So-
also vote on the amount of money and the parameters that we discussed?
Oh, yes, we should vote on all of that.
Okay.
Yes, so,
So I move that we establish a fund for rental assistance from the Affordable Housing Trust for $100,000.
and should we add all of the other parameters into that vote?
Well, it probably plus administrative expenses. I don't think we necessarily want to dip into that account for admin expenses, right?
Right.
Right.
So it would be 100,000 for rental assistance plus any administration fees negotiated with Pettingill House,
Up to $10,000.
up to $10,000 maximum.
Right. It's 10,000 maximum, up to 100% AMI. we did say a 3-month limit, right?
Yep.
And
And
30% income.
yeah, applicant to pay 30% of household income. So is that it on the criteria?
Other than, I think Judy, you've done a really nice job in researching, and, could we ask that you, maybe work with Madeline or Karen or somebody and just finalize the application?
Yeah, we should probably just finish this vote. So Donna, you made a motion.
Right, sorry, yeah.
I
So,
second.
so Karen second. So Judy in favor.
Madeline in favor?
Suzanne.
Okay, all right, so what's next on this? Donna, you were saying,
We need an application.
yeah.
So, Judy, thank you so much for all your research, and didn't know if there was one other trust member that you could work with and come up with in the next week to 10 days, a final application that you could send around through Caitlin that we could all approve.
Okay, sure, I can do that.
Wonderful.
It would also, I think it would also be good to have a plan for how to market this.
Well, I'm not sure there's going to be a problem with that. We'll put it on our website under the COVID-19 alerts. We will put it on Newburyport Connect, which is a separate section of the website devoted to just support services. We will let Pettingill know. We will let the new social worker working with youth services know. I will make mention of it on when we're finalized. I've been doing a weekly video update to the community. I did another one today, my 4th one at 4 o'clock every Thursday. We'll do it there, can get it out on Local Pulse. I'm not a press release. I honestly don't think we're going to have any trouble getting the information out about this. Put it out through the Y also, through Tracy, through the Affordable Housing Trust. Some of the people maybe, I don't know. I mean, her people are all based on income, so not necessarily an issue, but I'm sure we can find, all those avenues to be sure we put it out. Even a landlord like David for some of his renters. Maybe he has some people who could benefit.
Right. Yeah, I did tell him that I would let him know.
Right.
Yeah, all the service providers, and he sent out in his email a list of all the service providers. So the application. So what about the agreement with Pettingill? Donna, are you going to take care of that, or is there?
Yes, I will, and I'll be sure I run it through legal.
And then the lease agreement.
But that would be something the applicant would have to bring forward, correct?
The lease agreement would be it. I think the lease agreement is a combination of, it's an agreement with us and Pettingill and the landlord, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, we can probably use what North Andover is using, right? Modify it.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah.
I mean, it might be good, Judy, if you have a chance, or Donna or somebody, to talk with Tracy about how it's going. I mean, we were hoping she was going to participate in this evening's meeting, but since they've been doing it, it might be interesting to hear from her, any intel she has to share.
Okay. I'll talk to her. I talked to her last week too.
Great.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the lease agreement that North Andover use. You know, theirs is a little bit different because they actually made a grant of money to the agency to
Oh, okay.
Greater Lawrence. Yeah, so that's a
Well,
little
let me
bit.
find out how Pettingill wants to deal with this.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
they might decide that that's the best way to do it, that we just give them, you know,
Yep.
under a grant arrangement, in a contract, you know, the 100,000 plus the admin costs, and, you know, they do a, you know, bi-weekly or something kind of report to Caitlin to let us know how the process is going.
Yes, that was another thing that MHP emphasized was to have reporting, and that is in the agreement that North Andover had with Greater Lawrence, was some kind of reporting. So yeah, so Donna, you'll talk with them about that.
Yeah, I'll go through all of those pieces with them.
Okay, great.
Because if we say it's up to $100,000, and the only thing I would be concerned is if we're somehow giving that all to Pettingill and then only 70 of it is used or whatever, you know, I'd want to make sure that we can keep that in the trust.
Right.
Correct.
That's what I was just thinking, yeah.
Right.
So we might disperse it in, you know, 2 allotments of 50 or something. You know, we could always do that, but that can be part of our, you know, my discussion with them next week.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. Excellent.
I mean, I think that it's great that the trust is doing this rather than having to go through the CPC and get city council to review and approve. I just don't think that would be as efficient, right?
Right.
But I do think that this is an eligible use of CPA funds, and I think it would be great if the trust got reimbursed or, you know, we're able to replenish its funds next year when the CPA applications are being accepted.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Keep our eye on the long-term vision of, you know, increasing affordable housing in Newburyport. So yeah, to the extent we can replace some of that money, that would be good.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think, if it weren't for COVID-19, I don't think we would be talking about the trust setting up a housing assistance program right now. I mean, maybe we should have, but it's not something that we've considered before.
Right.
So I just think we should be mindful of that.
Agreed.
Okay, good. So anything else we need to talk about on this? Should we go to item number 2?
Yep.
7 Richardson Path.
Yep. Judy, this is Caitlin. I can give a quick overview of this request before you.
Sure.
Okay, so we have a request from the owner at 7 Richardson Path. They want to move forward with their refinance. They bought their home in 2014 for $199,000. This is their first refinance. They want to go forward with the amount requested is $179,000. DHCD doesn't have any concerns. They established the max resale price for $252,000. One of the conditions for first mortgage refinance is that it can't exceed 95% of the max resale price, and this doesn't. So I don't have any concerns. DHDC doesn't have concerns. I am waiting for an appraisal letter from the owner, which I should get probably early next week.
What development is this, Caitlin?
This is 7 Richardson Path, which is Oleo Woods.
Oh, Oleo Woods. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, it's a good interest rate and all of that.
Yep, and this would be for a shorter term, 15-year fixed rate.
Okay.
So DHCD doesn't have concerns. They just need us to fill out a form that they have sent to us, like a template, just saying that we don't have concerns and that we would agree to this refinance request.
So, okay, so we should probably vote. So is there a motion?
I'll
Sorry,
move to accept their, no, go ahead. Suzanne, were you saying something?
Yeah, this is just a rate and term. This is no cash out, correct?
Correct.
All right, yep.
Are you
And
making a motion, Suzanne?
Motion to approve. Yeah, second, whatever.
I'll second it.
And
I'll second
Madeline's-
it.
Okay, so Judy approves.
Aaron approves.
All right, and Donna
Approves.
approves. Okay, good. Was that it? Was there something else?
I see in
Can you
the
move the agenda down a little bit?
down payment assistance.
Yeah, so we do have a down payment assistance request in front of us.
Oh,
We
right.
applied for the Parker Hill unit and they did get it, so we'll move forward with them on that request.
Oh, good, good. Right, the Parker Hill, right.
Andy, can you progress the agenda down a little bit?
Caitlin, I was wondering if you had any information on how many applicants there were, like what was the level of interest in those housing units?
I mean, there were, I believe, I talked to their lottery agent, I believe there was like a dozen people interested in it, and they actually had to hold an online lottery too. But I mean, so I think it was like 12 people for 3 units.
Caitlin, what were you looking for in terms of the agenda?
I just wanted to make sure we didn't have another item, and we don't. We just need to talk about when we may want to think about having another online meeting. We can think about it, or we can select a date now.
I was just going to say something about the marketing of units. I don't know whether the trust has the opportunity to see marketing plans or to weigh in or review them. Is that something I don't think that's something we've been doing. I don't know whether it's something people are interested in. I personally would like to make sure that we have the opportunity to make suggestions, to make sure that as many folks who might be interested in these condos that are coming on the market, the affordable units, that they're being marketed as effectively as possible. So do the developers submit a marketing plan to us?
I think they did. Yeah, didn't Parker Hill submit something?
I've only been here for a little bit, but what I can tell, what happens is the applicant comes in and discusses it with you, and then I think Judy, signed off on the actual marketing plan. I'm not quite sure if the whole trust actually saw the text of the marketing plan, but we can certainly do that if you want to.
This is Andy. Yeah, I would recommend that we just tweak the process we have right now for developments that are in permitting, where the planning board gets a project, and at that point, any other information the trust might submit as comments, Caitlin can weigh in with the usual staff reports and basically say that we'd like the trust, as a condition of any of the development permits related to affordable housing, that the trust be designated as the entity to review and approve the marketing plan. That way, irrespective of anything at the state level, you have a chance to take a look and approve the breadth of it.
That sounds good to me. I don't know how other people feel.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, great. I mean, hopefully we'll be seeing more projects like this. And people will be able to buy them.
Yeah, right.
Oh. Okay, great.
Yeah, I'm looking at the, I had it, maybe I was the only one who got it. So I'm looking at it right now. It's in my affordable housing folder here, Parker Hill Affordable Housing Marketing and Lottery Plan.
Yeah, I've never seen that. So yeah, I think it'd be good for the whole trust to see it. Not that, I mean, I'm glad you're seeing it, Judy, but just.
Yeah,
Great,
okay.
thanks. So do we want to talk about a next meeting date? Because we may have some follow-up with this rental assistance program.
Yeah, we should probably do that. Well, let's see, today's the 16th.
About May 14th.
Might be too late.
Too late.
I don't
Yeah.
know. I mean, we could be doing everything because everything's been voted on and do everything via email, but, maybe we shoot for the 14th, and if we need something earlier, we just schedule it. How about that?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
No one can say they're going on vacation or they're going to be out of town, so.
Right.
I'm going on a cruise. What do you mean? Actually, I was thinking about returning to Italy. Oh my God. All I could say is that we left our family Christmas present was a trip to New York City to see Hamilton.
Oh,
And we left New York City on the 26th of February.
wow.
I am just so glad we did it that weekend and not a week later.
Yeah.
It's everything. It's just been incredible. I can't even begin to describe what we've been trying to deal with overall in the city, and we are doing well compared to places like Chelsea and Revere, and it's just incredible. But and I'm so grateful to staff, boards, commissioners, everybody who has just stepped up and keeping it going as we do this process. And I'll tell you, I'll be so glad to have people in a room again.
Yeah.
I'm missing people terribly.
Yeah.
Anyway, I hope everybody's okay. Families are okay.
Yep, so
Yeah,
far.
Mara, can I just ask, Mara, is there anything going on with the feasibility analysis for the armory?
You mean for Brown School and the emergency ops? Yes, actually, the RFP was awarded to MLA, and they did a walkthrough with Andy, and I guess they're scheduled another one for today or tomorrow, keeping social distancing and masks and things. And they anticipate having something available to us by July. Certainly if you would like us to set up some kind of discussion with this architectural group, that could happen too, I'm sure. Andy, right, are you still on?
Yeah, actually, I think that's a great idea, given that the Brown is a little unique scenario because we will be retaining, assuming youth services stays there, we will retain some other.
What?
What? I have to go with the fact that the study's doing two scenarios, right? So in that hypothetical, although it's not one I support, of youth services being at the Brown School, there would be a portion of the building retained, whereas if they go to another site, it's eliminated as a problem at that building. But if they stay at the building, there'd be some sort of discussion about what's left over, and obviously the assumption is that would be housing. So it would benefit us, I think, to have maybe the consultant, Kathleen, we can bring her into the next trust meeting, and you could discuss just any particular concerns. We could throw up any schematic plans they're working with, just so we can, provide any feedback to them. They're not really doing plans for the housing side, but there needs to be consideration as they do layout for youth services there if it stays, to make that feasible. If they don't have youth services there, because in my opinion, the Low Street site is better for a number of reasons. If that happens, and that sort of eliminates the need to have that discussion with this consultant, because it would be free reign for us to look at reconfiguration of the Brown School.
I still think it would be really helpful, Andy and Caitlin, if you could set up for them to attend the next Zoom meeting.
Yeah. So
Because I'm sure we're still going to be doing this on the May 14th.
Right.
Right.
I'll give them a heads up now, and we'll assume. One thing I just wanted to note, I'm looking at the city calendar, the Historical Commission is actually meeting that night. And I know that I'm not sure what length of a time you're thinking for the meeting, but we usually try not to double up particularly right now where we're trying to manage two boards at the same time.
Well, there's no reason why we couldn't meet earlier. It's not like, everyone's working, right?
Right. Yeah, I mean, we could meet,
5 o'clock.
Yeah, exactly. Would that work?
Does that make sense,
Well,
trust members?
No, that's hard for me, actually. 'cause
Okay,
I am
okay,
still
that's fine.
working from home, but it's hard right at 5, I think. Could we pick another night,
Sure.
like Wednesday the
But the
13th,
week before.
or Tuesday the 12th, or on a Thursday? It doesn't have to be a Thursday anymore, is what I was thinking, just because it's not
Right.
enough all being open.
Yeah, I mean, any night works for me.
Me too. It's probably Caitlin and Andy that have, and the mayor that have conflicts.
Yeah.
Andy, you pick a night.
Wow, it's the first time I've been able to pick a night for a meeting.
There you go.
Yeah, right.
You want to do the 13th?
Yeah, I mean, I think we should try to keep it as early as possible. At least, yeah. So I would say the 13th is probably a good night to do.
What day of the week is that?
That's a Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Okay.
At
Right now-
6:30.
Right now, the only meeting on the city calendar is the tree commission, so there's no real overlap there.
Okay, so Wednesday the 13th.
Still assume 6:30 as usual?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and if there's something for us to review before the meeting, that would be really helpful, just so we can have an informed discussion.
Yeah, I'm going to venture to guess at this point, because as the mayor mentioned, we did another walkthrough of the facilities today. Because this is their subcontractors looking at mechanical systems, structural issues on both sites. Because they're still in that process, and we're going to be doing programmatic considerations over the next couple of weeks. My guess is it would be maybe a week before or 2 weeks before when we start getting plans from them with some sort of schematic layouts for things. So, but what we could do is pull up the prior plans, assuming there's nothing from them. We could pull up the plans that were done by Winter Street last time and walk through some of the concerns or the concepts about having a lobby space for the housing side that was, distinct from the youth services side and so forth. Just to kind of lay out the general concerns you might have, so that at least they have that informed when they're doing plans over the next week or two. Because my guess is it's going to be just a little after that they end up getting plans to us to start taking a look at.
I would rather not give them anything. I would rather them just come and, talk about their, this is why we hired them, because they have this expertise, and I would like to hear from them what their recommendations are. And when you look at what they did in Brookline, which was totally outside the box, I think that if we give them, information, then they're going to try and keep within those little boxes. And I think that it's better just to, they have access to information, and I think it's better they have just an open conversation with us, because they still will have even 2 months to complete their work. And that's a good time for us to weigh in and just have a conversation about what they're seeing, what they're thinking, what we're thinking, what we see as the needs in the city, and just take it from there. I don't want to give them too much information to direct the conversation.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess what I was thinking was if they had some kind of concepts or something for us to review, so that when we talk with them, we've got something to respond to. But maybe we're not at that point yet. And maybe what you're saying, Mayor, is that just to give them some of our thoughts about local housing needs and
maybe
what
Andy
we've
and
heard
Caitlin, maybe
from the
what they could
community.
do is give us a list of questions they'd like to have a conversation with us about.
Yeah, I mean, to be frank, it's important to remember, for the trust to remember, that the scope of their study related to housing is virtually non-existent. The portion that there's overlap is where in the youth services feasibility study, where they're doing layouts for youth services on that first floor of the Brown, Low Street site has no discussion of housing. The real issue there is where the interface is between any of the housing aspect that might go forward and the youth services component, if it stays there. Other than that, they're not doing any work on the housing side of this particular facility. So it's not like they're, if the housing trust members are assuming that there's going to be some sort of schematic plans from them for the housing, that's not a deliverable they're required to give us.
Understood.
Study.
Understood.
Yeah. But I think that
okay.
interface or lobby space, having something that works there, or making sure that the remaining space is viable. We've talked about that with the council in terms of build out. That's something I think that's worth discussing with them, because that should be considered as they do any kind of layout. So we'll just invite them for a free-form discussion on the 13th then, and
Right, and maybe they could come up with a list of questions they would like to generate discussion.
we'll do.
Okay, sounds good.
Great.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay,
Thanks, everybody.
All right, does that mean a
Motion to adjourn?
Okay.
yes.
So moved.
So moved. All right.
All in
Meeting
favor.
adjourned.
Aye.
Thank you, everyone.
Be
Thank
well,
you.
stay safe.
Same to you.
Yeah,
You
Okay, take
too.
care.
too.
Thank you.
Take care.
Thanks.
Bye.
thank you.
Bye.